These are the 7 most underplayed commanders and their decks.
I'm your host, Joe Cherries.
I'm your host, BZ, joined by Amber, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. You could support the Nitpicking Nerds and Amber. Well, we're all the Nitpicking Nerds. You could support us by going to Patreon. That's where we need you to be, because you can give us your direct support, your direct dollars, and it helps make the channel better, bigger, and more ambery.
And you better get prepared because we're doing a big overhaul on Patreon. There's going to be some awesome stuff coming up soon.
Coming.
And when you become a patron, we'll love you as much as we can without making you uncomfortable. And special shout outs to our patrons' son, William, who I played with in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which was MagicCon, Magic Fest. It's one of those two, something fun like that. William, it was very nice to play with you. And this video is dedicated to you, I suppose.
It's all for you.
This is your video. Underplayed Commanders is all for William.
Even this Amber part where she's just laying down.
Yes, Amber is laying down for you.
And if this video isn't dedicated to you, you can go to Cool Stuff Inc. and enter code
NERDS
and save 5% on your order. That's a tangible benefit for you. You're saving money because you used code
NERDS
at checkout.
Yes, and that's awesome. That's all you have to do is use that code. You're supporting us. You're supporting yourself. Easy peasy. Dragon Shield has the best sleeves in the multiverse.
Good sleeves.
And literally, we use them on every single one of our decks. Use our EU and US links in the description below to get those sleeves, or just use Cool Stuff Inc. and get them there.
Yeah, there's too many options. And Moxo.com, it's coming up. There's an ad. You won't be able to guess it. Feel free to guess in the comments. You will be cheating if you get it right.
You are already wrong. Sorry. And if you get it right, I'll pin your comment to point out that you were cheating. And happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is today.
These 7 commanders are super underplayed, and we're going to go over them and what their decks look like.
So what I did is I made sure that every single one of these commanders were in the bottom half of played commanders. So they're really far down the list. You literally have to scroll past half the commanders to get to even the first ones here. And I just looked at the coolest, funnest decks, and these cards are underplayed because most of them are very strong, or being underplayed doesn't necessarily mean it's just that they're strong. They might just be a cool, fun commander that's just not getting the play they deserve.
Yeah, like there's a lot to do with these commanders, and we don't see people doing it. So if you're looking for like a super unique deck that you're really not going to see anywhere, I would recommend any one of the following 7 commanders, like the first one, Takesia, Dig Site Mentor. She's in 525 decks, and she's ranked 901.
She's one of the band for a 4/3. All of your creatures, including her, have Vigilance and Surveil 1. So you tap them, and you can Surveil 1. And then you pay 1,000,000 mana, exile her from your graveyard to return 10 mana value worth of artifacts from your graveyard to the battlefield. This card is just really, really strong. I just think this one is just underplayed for maybe how fun it is, and underplayed for how strong it is, because this is a good card.
I mean, Bant Artifacts. I can't even think of another Bant Artifacts commander. So you can play all these green and blue cards that you usually don't get to see, because usually artifacts are like red, white. So you're already playing like a bunch of out there stuff, but then the tap to Surveil 1 means you can even just ignore the artifact text and just have all your creatures mill 1 whenever they tap, and kind of do like a self-mill graveyard type thing. You can even throw in like Thassa's Oracle for this. There's just like, as soon as I think of Takesia, I think of a million different things going on.
Yeah, there's a lot to do with this deck. So let's go over the cards in the deck. What does her deck look like? Well, one of my favorite new cards that you're going to see in a lot of these decks is Mist Meadow Vanisher. So whenever it becomes tapped, it can become tapped with Takesia's ability. We can go ahead and flicker something until end of turn. This puts an added layer of protection onto our commander. As long as this is on the battlefield, we can flick our commander to get rid of it. If we're not ready for it to die, it's not that part of the game yet, okay, you're not spot moving it because I'm going to flicker it out until the end step.
And if you're in the mid to late game anyway, I don't know, are people going to want to kill this? Does that just mean you get to keep your commander out for longer? Because if you stick it in the graveyard and then just go, great, here's 10 mana value of artifacts, I don't think your opponents are going to be happy with that.
Yeah, but also on the same note, you can use this to protect any one of your pieces. That's because true. You're going to have awesome creatures like Drumbellower, which is going to tap all of your creatures every single upkeep, which becomes very, very strong when all of them have Surveil 1. If you have 5 creatures, they can Surveil 1 once a turn. Now you can Surveil 20 before it comes back around to you.
Yes, you also get Quest for Renewal, which is going to charge up immediately and then says your creatures untap every turn. And then Seedborn Muse says all your stuff untaps every turn. And man, I've been flirting with building a Takesia deck for so long. Like I've been so close so many times. I don't know, this might push me over the edge. I also like Enhanced Surveillance. Oh man, that's sick. It lets you surveil 3 instead of surveilling 1.
Yeah, exactly. Just like the guys who untap, these give you just as much more power. Let's look at the top 3, put whatever ones want in the graveyard, or just all of them in the graveyard, because ultimately, something this deck will do, and a lot of versions that will do, are just going to mill themselves 100% out because it's so easy with Takesia.
Oh, this is too cool. Oh no, this is the coolest thing ever. Fallow Sage draws a card when it becomes tapped. That's all the time.
That's all the time. I mean, literally, yeah. Tap, draw cards, do your surveil one. Your creatures all having vigilance. I mean, they get to attack too. Like, don't forget, if you want them to be able to attack, they get to just do attack. I think my favorite card is this next one for this deck, because this card is not really good in almost any place, but it's amazing in this deck, and it's Scare Tiller. Okay, it's a 4-mana artifact. Doesn't really do that much, but when it becomes tapped, you get 2 choices. Put a land from your hand into play, or from your graveyard onto the battlefield. We're surveilling our whole deck into the graveyard. This is going to have lands to always put on. So tap, you put a land, and then you surveil one. You can probably put another land in your graveyard to get back next turn.
That's so cool. Encroaching Mycosynth. That's the card that says all your stuff is artifacts?
Yeah, so the whole idea of this is if we're going a different route, our deck is not necessarily artifacts. We can just play Encroaching Mycosynth to make our deck artifacts, so we can just get everything back. If everything's artifacts, when we activate Takesha, okay, I'll return every single thing I want from my graveyard. I don't just have to choose the artifacts, choose the best card. This deck will, however, max out on artifact lands, though we can't do the cool, like making all of our lands into artifact lands. We'll max out on, the 2-color tapped, like,
Indestructible bridges.
Yeah, and the regular artifact ones will max out on those, because when we activate Tokesha, those are all just free to bring back. Those have 0 mana value.
Yeah, Darksteel Citadel, Treasure Vault. There's kind of a lot nowadays, and that's just
sweet. The ones we named of those. That's literally 8 already. There's probably a couple more.
Right, and they're all coming back for free whenever you activate her. And Halo Fountain, that's pretty sweet. Not only are you untapping your creatures, but that's a win condition.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to tap down our creatures anyway. That's what our deck wants to do. Now we have a way to untap them to get more effect. One of them makes creatures that we can tap to surveil and just keep going through our deck. And eventually we can just get to a point where we're going to have 1 million creatures on the board, and then we just win. It's so perfect for the deck.
And it's an artifact. So if you have enough creatures in play and Takesha's dead, unfortunately, RIP, you can bring Halo Fountain back and just win. Also, there's a whole nother way to build this deck that we haven't even talked about. It's like the kind of like a Rule 0 flavor deck. You could build the like Brothers War lore deck of like Optimus Prime, Cyclonus, the Caves of Koilos, because that's where Takesha died. That's how it all went down.
Yeah, exactly. And if you don't know about that lore, check it out. It is in our Brothers War Ranking Every Commander video. We go over all the lore in great detail.
All of Takesha's lore. But yeah, you're not allowed to build this deck anymore because it's too cool, and I'm going to do it.
All right, you may mention the last one being super cool to you. I think this next one is the one when I look at it, I'm like, oh, this deck looks spicy. So we have Daryl, Hunter of Walkers. Only 464 decks according to EDH Rec, and it's ranked number 905.
Yeah, this one I can already tell you why it's not played more. It's the controversy about The Walking Dead. Are people still mad about that? Just play this card.
But Negan sees a ton of play, so there's at least a flip side to the coin. 2 green red for a 4/4, and at the beginning of your upkeep, give an opponent 3 Walker tokens. They're 2/2 zombies, classic for Magic the Gathering. 2/2 zombies are just what they are. They're black. That's going to be actually super important to this deck. Tap to deal 2 damage to any creature. Well, that would kill a zombie. And whenever a zombie an opponent controls dies, you draw a card. This card is just powerful. We've talked about it in the past, but we haven't talked about it in a while. Its ability is just good. Come around your turn, there's 3 2/1s. Now, if you can get rid of them all, wow, you draw 3 cards. That's very, very powerful. So when you play things like Pyroclasm, all right, 2 mana, 2 damage to each creature. That's usually not a very good card. But when you've given away 3 zombies, and when those zombies die, you draw cards. Now all of a sudden, you've turned your Pyroclasm into, you've removed all the little dorks of the battlefield, so it's like probably like a 3 or 4 for 1, and you're drawing 3 cards, making it like a 7 for 1.
Yeah, and I think you get some value out of some of the other untapped stuff with Daryl, because you could just keep pinging off creatures, whether or not they're zombies. He still kills like Oracle of Moldias all day. Delayed Blast Fireball is another one. Not only is that card amazing, but it's killing all zombies on the battlefield, regardless of how big they are.
It's the best. I put it here because it's the best actual playable variant of Pyroclasm. Like, it is the if someone asks, hey, I need to play one version of Pyroclasm, I would hand them Delayed Blast Fireball and say, hey, put this in your deck.
That's true. You could just actually want to play it for 3 mana,
as
opposed to the Foretell version.
Which is what's great about it, because like the Foretell version is absurd. It's a blowout. It's ridiculous, and we're gonna play it for that a lot. But this deck can just play the instant speed Pyroclasm and be super happy.
Yes. Now, if you are somebody who knows what Reap or Pygmy Kavu do, big props, because I think most people don't know what those do, including me, Cherries.
Yes. Let's start with Reap. Reap is incredibly, weirdly strong in this deck. So it is an instant that says return any number of target cards from your graveyard to your hand. You can't choose more than the number of black creatures target opponent controls. So, if you wait 2 turns and maybe you don't call zombies, you could return 6 cards for 2 mana at instant speed from your graveyard to your hand. This card just kind of goes off in this deck.
Seems pretty sweet.
I mean, it's weird how strong it is because this isn't a card like we necessarily would tell you to play, but the fact that we're handing out the black zombies, okay, awesome, perfect. They're always going to have black creatures because of Daryl.
Yes. Is there a flavor reason that Daryl just gives away zombies? Is that just random?
There is not a... As far as...
He doesn't, bring zombies to people. He's not a bad guy.
No, he's not a bad guy. He doesn't bring zombies. I actually am really not sure what he's doing with his zombies. Whatever.
What's Pygmy Kavu do?
Pygmy Kavu is also extremely cool. It's a 4-mana garbage creature with bad power, bad toughness, but when it enters the battlefield, for each black creature an opponent controls, we're going to draw cards. All right, well, the minimum we can do is we can just give away the 3 when we come back on upkeep, then play this, and then draw 3 cards. Then tap Daryl, kill one of them, and draw another card.
What's actually cool about these cards is that they're really high risk, high reward, but Daryl takes the floor from nothing to, pretty good, and then you're still going to be playing against, every once in a while, blue-black zombies or mono-black players that just have a bunch of stuff out.
Yeah.
And then they just are insane.
Yeah, exactly. Like these cards are there's the reason we would never usually play these cards is the floor is garbage. Is garbage. It's nothing, right? These cards will do nothing in their worst case scenarios. Daryl takes that and says, "No, that's not happening anymore. All right, the floor is now you draw 3 with these cards."
Yeah, basically Daryl turns every one of these bad cards into an ancestral recall at the floor. Dingus Staff is going to ping everybody for 2 when their creatures die, and we're going to be giving some extra stuff away.
Yeah, exactly. So we're going to be putting creatures on their side to kill. First thing, the name of this card, amazing. I don't know why Magic doesn't use the word dingus much more. I don't know what dingus means other than an insult to kind of make fun of somebody. What I don't know. What is a dingus?
I don't know. It feels outdated somehow.
The Dingus Day. I know there is Dingus Day.
Yeah.
But I don't. It's like a holiday. I don't. Somebody in the comments tell us what is Dingus.
Yes, and should we even be saying Dingus so much? Sareth the Viper. It's going to give your untapped creatures hexproof and your tapped creatures death touch. We want both of those, and she can untap a creature. So Daryl's protected, and Daryl's going to be shooting down everything.
Giving Daryl death touch is something this deck just wants to do. So you can take out any creature with its ping ability. But this is the perfect little card for this deck because it lets Daryl ping twice. Oh, that's really, really strong. It lets Daryl kill anything. That's really, really strong. And it's protection when you need to protect. It's just every single line of this card, and there's 5, does something for a commander.
Yeah, and Thornbite Staff, really, you'd love Thornbite Staff with Sareth because it says when a creature dies, you untap the creature. So if you tap to destroy a creature and then untap it, well, guess what? You're destroying every creature your opponents control, and you're drawing a card for each zombie.
Yeah, exactly. So Thornbite Staff is just going to be hey, you can kill all 2 toughness creatures, then you add Death Touch in. Now you can kill all creatures that you want, and your commander will just be untapped. It's just really, really strong. Probably one of the best cards in the deck once you actually, if you built this deck, you'd be oh, when I draw Thornbite Staff, it's hard to lose.
Yeah, and then if you wanted to, tune up the deck, you could even throw some infinite combos in there, right?
Yeah, there's some really awesome combos that this commander can do. Another way to go with this deck that's really fun, and this is why I like this deck so much, because we kind of we went down the board. It's went over some Pyroclasm, some weird card advantage, a Dingus Staff, and now we're just let's talk about enrage creatures.
Talk about dinosaurs.
Exactly. It's that's what's so cool about this deck.
Sweet.
It goes all over the place. So we can play something like Ranging Rampage. It's a 2/3 when it takes damage, you Rampant Growth. Go get a land on your basic land, put it onto the battlefield. Perfect. We can, when we don't want to be killing the zombies and we want to be ramping, now we have a way to just ramp every single turn that we can. Daryl also happens to be really good with things we talked about before, like Seedborn Muse, so we can untap them to use the ping every single turn.
Yeah, Apex Altasaur is going to just fight down all your opponent's creatures. It also is really good at taking out zombies.
Yeah.
And, oh, man. Ripjaw Raptor. That's the card that everybody thought was going to do anything in Standard, but it never did. Here's the place to play it. It draws a card when it's dealt damage.
Yeah, the reason I like Apex Altasaur so much, I didn't list Ripjaw Raptor because the thing that Daryl isn't struggling with is card draw, right? So it's we're adding Ripjaw Raptor. It's
no, Ripjaw Raptor's still not good enough.
Not really, because Ripjaw Raptor says deal 2 damage to a draw card, but it's there's a zombie on the other side.
I'd still play it.
You could always just deal to them. I would play in the deck too. I would agree with you, but it's medium. Altasaur is ridiculous because now you're going to make 3 for your opponent. You'll deal 2 to this and then always fight off those zombies and 3 more power worth of creatures off the board every single time. It's so strong in this deck.
Yeah, and then Rampaging Ferocity. That says nobody can gain life, and their stuff pings them whenever it enters, including us.
Yeah, because so we're going to give... Our opponents are getting 3 zombies. They're going to get pinged for 3. This deck is just going to be like between Dingastaff and Rampaging Ferocity, we're going to just be like actually burning out our opponents.
Okay, so we're hosing mono black decks accidentally, we're hosing zombie decks accidentally, we're hosing token decks accidentally, and we're hosing life gain decks accidentally.
Yeah, we have lots of accidental hate. Never was this intended, but it's here.
Just like in The Walking Dead Season 3, Episode 4, when Daryl accidentally hates everybody. Next, we can move on to Blex Vexing Pest. He only has 476 decks, and he's ranked 941. He says spiders, bats, snakes, and pests get +1/+1.
And insects.
He's a 3/2. Yeah, when he dies, you gain 4. And then on the backside, it's search for Blex. It's 2 black. And I think you look at the top 5, and for each card, you can pay 3 life to put in your hand. Otherwise, they go in your graveyard.
Okay, so yes, Blex is a very silly card that cares about very silly creature type.
I mean, Blex Vexing Pest, that's already a silly name.
Yeah, it's an extremely silly card. Like you said, there's the back where you can draw a bunch of cards at the cost of a lot of life. Those put them in the graveyard for like other synergies, but we're going to play the front side a lot because we're going to just pump up all of our pest
creepy crawlies.
Creepy crawlies, yes, our creepy crawlies. So what I kind of just found the best creepy crawly cards of each kind. So for pest, you get Blight Mound, which is like just really, really good in this deck. Whenever your non-token creatures die, you get pest, and your pests get +1/+0 and menace. So all your pests are super annoying. Black's also a pest. He's going to be super annoying in combat as well.
Yeah, Springleaf Avenger, one of the only playable insects ever made. It's got ninjutsu, and when it hits somebody, you get to Eternal Witness. This card kind of hits like a truck.
And not only is it an insect, it's a ninja insect. Come on, that's cool.
Yes, Shigeki, one of my all-time favorite budget cards. He just channels to get back all this different stuff, and he loops with Eternal Witnesses, or he loops with like any sort of regrowth effect. So you're just never going to run out of cards with Shigeki in your deck.
And he's a snake. That's why we're playing it, because
and he ramps.
He ramps. He's a snake. He's Shigeki. He's out here doing everything this deck wants to do. Arachnogenesis. Let's do a fog and get a bunch of spiders. I'm in for it. Blex is pumping up the spiders. Why would I want 1/2 spiders when I can have 2/3 spiders?
Yeah, this is like the green ink shield, but for spiders.
Yes, this is one of the funniest, most unique decks on the whole list.
Another one of my all-time favorites, spider spawning. You could just use the back of Blex to put a bunch of creatures in your graveyard, draw the good cards like spider spawning, and then play it to get like 85 spiders.
Yeah, and their spiders are going to be pumped, because why would we want 1/2 spiders when we can have 2/3 spiders?
1/2 spiders are already so good. They block everything.
Yeah, but now they block even more. And okay, I wanted to get bats. Bats were the one thing that was kind of lacking in this deck, where I'm like, bats are not very good. So I looked around. Best couple of bats I could find. We have Dirge Bat, which can mutate to give something basically flying. And when it mutates, it destroys something. So that's a cool little bat. And then the second best bat, which you wouldn't expect because it's a common, it is Basilica Screecher. It's a 1/2 bat with Extort.
Yes. I was trying to think back to our best creature of each type video to see to remember what bat was the best, and I can't even remember.
I believe it was Dirge Bat.
Yeah, I was trying to think of like if Dirge Bat even came out back then. It probably did, though.
Yes, Dirge Bat, I believe, was the best bat of type. It turns out Bat's just not a strong creature type.
Bats are rocking with Vanilla Extort Creature and 6-mana Murder.
French Vanilla, come on, as flying. All right, let's move on to our next underplayed commander. It's Temet, Vizier of Noctamoon. Weird name. 454 total decks, according to EDHREC, and ranked number 961. All right, so this card does not see much play at all, but it's very cool. So it is on the front, a 2-mana 2/2 that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, give some token +1/+1, and it can't be blocked. So it becomes an unblockable creature.
And on the backside, it's Magic the Gathering Deck Nester.
Yes, that is true. But it actually embalms from the graveyard to become a copy of itself, and now it's actually a token itself. So it's cool. It's really low on commander tax, which I really like. You get to play it once, and then you get to play it a second time without really having to have paid any tax, and then he'll end up back in your command zone after that.
And then the third time you cast him, he's actually cheaper than the second time you play him from your graveyard.
Which is kind of silly to think about, right? So there's actually 3 board wipes that work silly good with this. So we want to make tokens. We want to make giant tokens too, because we're going to be able to make one single one unblockable. So Sunfall, which gets rid of all the creatures and then makes an incubate token with that many +1/+1 counters. That's going to be an absolutely giant, huge token. We also have the original version of this card, Phyrexian Rebirth, which just gives you an XX Phyrexian equal to the number of creatures destroyed this way.
And that one's even better because Sunfall you have to play before Temet, but you can play Temet and then Phyrexian Rebirth, but now Temet's in your graveyard, and you just embalm it and attack somebody for like 30.
Yeah, and all of our creatures, we're planning on being a tokens deck. A weird tokens deck, but a tokens deck nonetheless. So Ixodron just pulls a ton of work because we flip everyone else's stuff face down to be 2/2s, while our stuff just stays face up because it's tokens.
Right, well, or it's like a face down token. It's still a token.
No, he doesn't flip. He says non-token.
Well, even better.
Yeah, so he can't even flip our tokens.
I'm thinking C double goes in this deck because you can make a token that's a copy of basically anything and copy a spell.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So we want to copy the biggest, baddest things. Our whole goal is going to be like, hey, let's copy that giant creature over there.
Copy Ixodron.
Yeah, let's copy it while it's on the stack and the best thing on the battlefield so that we can make those things unblockable and get in with them. Elminster Simulacrum does the exact same thing, except for it doesn't copy spells. We can just copy the best thing on each person's board.
And both of these are like kind of pretty new. So Temet's gotten like extra technology, but nobody plays it, so you wouldn't know.
Extremely underplayed commander. Talking about special new technology, Bitter Thorn, Nissa's Animus, also new technology. He actually has great synergy with all the living weapons because they're all tokens right away. So
and the Firmiridan.
Yes, and for Mirrodin. So any living weapon for Mirrodin, those are equipments that come in attached to creatures. I really like this. It's ramp, and it can just, its weakness, it's going to die in combat. No, Temet's going to get around that, which is actually really sweet.
Yeah, Curiosity Crafter, we're just literally sneaking tokens through. Let's draw cards off of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like all we're doing. That's all this deck. That is what Temet does.
So Temet told me to do.
He does one thing, and he does it really, really well. And it's sneak big old tokens by for large chunks of damage.
Yeah, and Fairy Artisan's going to give you a bunch of weird tokens, and the last one is going to be able to be unblockable because that's when we're untapping with.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so whatever it is, whatever we come back around with, it will always be able to be unblockable. Sometimes your opponents can't control letting you have something pretty good with this card.
Well, yeah, but you could also say, hey, person to my right, play your biggest creature last, and I'll attack somebody else with it.
Ooh, so nice, so strong. We also have Fractured Identity. Let's exile the best thing, give everyone a copy of the best thing, but we have a special secret weapon. Sure, maybe other people can chump the best thing or whatever.
Is our secret weapon the face-up commander?
It's Temet. It's our secret weapon. And Temet allows us to get our commander through, or whatever, this new card, this Fractured Identity card, get it right through. And there's two cards I want to mention for this last part here. Duelist Heritage. Big, giant, unblockable double strike that's going to be a ton of damage. And you can also do, because this deck wants to push one creature through often, Sublime Archangel, so that you can give whatever that thing is extra big buffs when it's unblockable. This deck is really, really cool, and I think it's also I think it's definitely stronger than it looks. I think Temet is an unassuming commander. When you first look at this card, it's like, what does this card really do? But it really just starts pushing through a lot of damage as long as you jump through the hoop and making sure your best creatures are tokens.
He's cheap, and he doesn't die. It's like all these commanders, like they do things, and people just don't want to play with them. They're all focused on the next attract. So it's like, how about Temet, though?
Temet, baby. You make a Temet deck.
This next one's actually sort of recent, so I was surprised that it's so low, but it's Starscream Power Hungry / Starscream Seeker Leader. He only has 402 decks, and his rank is 1011. I think there's like 1,300 legendary creatures, so yikes.
1,600 legendary creatures.
1,600. There's 1,600, and like 300 are probably vanillas.
Yeah, so there's a lot of legendary creatures, and this one is ranked extremely low. So what does this card do? This thing can be cast on its front side or its back side. Let's start with the front side of this card. We have a 4-mana 2/3 with flying. If you're the Monarch, whenever you draw a card, target opponent loses 2 life, and then whenever you deal combat damage, it transforms. It can also be cast in the back side for its living metal cost, which is 2 and, or is it more than meets the eye? I don't know.
I think it's more than meets the eye.
Yes, it's more than meets the eye, but also it has the ability on the back, living metal. That's what it is. Okay, whatever. On the back side, it is also a 2/3. This time it has flying, menace, and haste. And whenever it deals combat damage to a player, if no one is the Monarch, that player becomes the Monarch.
So you don't get it.
So you don't get it. But when you do become the Monarch, so you've introduced it to the game now, when you become the Monarch at some point in this game, now you flip him back over to his other side, which is the ability to start draining people out.
Yeah, it's really weird. It forces politics. It forces like a little mini game. You have to do some work to get all this bonus, and then, oh boy.
Okay, so this card is strong. I mean, it is, I think, very unassuming. It doesn't look that strong, but it starts to say, whenever you draw a card, drain an opponent for 2. And that's really, really strong. They would not just put that ability on a card, so you have to jump through a hoop to get it. But when you get it, it's strong. So I think one of the keys to this deck is to introduce the Monarchy without your commander.
Yeah, just play him on the front side and then play Court of Ambition and just become the Monarch.
Yes, so now you've become the Monarch. You can just get whatever you want. Also, if you've played it, because it's cheaper to play on the backside, if you played it on the backside and then you become the Monarch, it still flips over. You don't have to come in via combat damage. You just have to become the Monarch. So Court of Ambition is just a way to get it. It doesn't really matter what the card does. It's just an enchantment that when you play it, you become the Monarch. Custodial Lich, the Monarch will be moving a lot, so this is actually going to be really good. Whenever you become the Monarch, it makes you the Monarch. You make an opponent sacrifice a creature, so it's going to actually happen a lot with this card.
Right, and I assume you want to then establish the Super Monarchy with Ravenloft Adventurer and take the initiative also?
Exactly. So I think when you're playing the Monarchy, it is very strong to also introduce the initiative. Your deck will be designed in a way to take the Monarchy back and guarantee you can get it. So when you put the initiative with it, now the Monarchy becomes what we've deemed the Super Monarchy, which is when the player who has the initiative, who has the Super Monarchy, is dealt it, you gain both of them, and they're both very strong abilities.
Yeah, then they're both most likely just going to be attached to each other for the rest of the game.
Unless another Monarch or initiative card is played, they are attached.
Right. It's like, it's like the, what is it, the Universal Championship.
Yes.
Both belts on your
yeah,
shoulders.
exactly. Like, you keep thinking Roman Reigns might lose one, but he never loses just one. He's going to lose both if he loses.
Obviously. And Gixian Puppeteer cares about you drawing your second card, which is the Monarchy version of the card. Like, you draw for your turn. End step, you're going to draw for them being the Monarch. Then, boom, you get to drain people. And then when he dies, you get to, like, bring something back. It's just value.
Yeah, it's a little value engine, and it really just works. We're going to draw a second card a turn because we're going to introduce the Monarch. Bam. We don't have to jump through any extra hoops. We're just doing exactly what the deck wants and getting extra value. Basically, it's like a second version of our commander that doesn't drain for as much.
And then we want to make sure once we actually untap and do all this work that we get to draw a bunch of cards.
Yes.
So we have Sign in Blood, Night's Whisper, Dark Deal, and Greed so that we don't have to do this too many times. If we're Star Screaming 5 times, we're going to win because we're just going to draw so many cards that draw more cards, you will die.
Yeah. Draw cards, draw cards, draw cards. That's like once you have become the Monarch and you have Starscream, you just want to draw cards. That's why I listed 4 cards right here in this little category, because it's so important. This is what the deck is going to do. Like, all this setup, all these other good cards, awesome. But make sure, once you get to this point, you've done it. Start drawing cards. And what's perfect about it, like game plans that revolve around drawing cards, when you draw cards, you draw more cards that draw cards. So it's just a never-ending chain.
Yeah, and Psychosis Crawler is going to be a backup Starscream just in case he dies or we want both out at the same time. The game's going to end real quick.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to drain out opponents whenever we draw cards. Again, we're just like Gitaxian Puppeteer. We're just adding on more of what our commander already wants to do. Seeing as we're drawing so many cards, a lot of the effects in black that draw extra cards, we went over literally Sign in Blood, Night's Whisper, and Greed all make us lose life, so Shield of the Apocalypse is going to do the opposite and make us gain life and also add to the drain plan that our commander is doing.
I think Shield Dread's another reason Starscream didn't get too much love, because she's similar. Like, Shield Dread plus Dark Deal is still amazing, and she came out a little bit before him, but I don't know. Shield Dread is like really lame. I don't find that to be very interesting.
Didn't they come out? No, wait. They came out one set apart. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And then Kothafed Soul Hoarder, that just draws so many cards off of like an asymmetrical board wiper, or just kind of like as the game progresses. I'll go ahead and throw in the new card, Infernal Sovereign. Just whenever you play anything, you just draw a card.
Yeah, I mean, these are silly. These are over-the-top big ways to draw cards, and we're weaponizing card draw, so this is that. Starscream is weaponize your card draw so that it becomes your win con.
I think we might be noticing a theme because we've had Daryl from The Walking Dead, we've had Starscream from Transformers, and now we have E. Honda, Sumo Champion from Mortal Kombat. This is 348 decks, and its rank is 1048, and it's a 6-mana 0/7 that has like Door in the Siege Tower text, and then when it attacks, 100 things get buffed equal to your hand size.
Up to 100 things.
100 things.
Like, so
if you choose less than 100, you're a coward.
Then you probably have a normal size Magic the Gathering
coward
board. E Honda is absolutely silly, and I actually want to mention something about these last 2 commanders, Starscream, E Honda, and Mystery Commander, who is coming up. They're all monocolored. I think also monocolored commanders tend to not get as much love as they deserve.
Monocolored decks are sweet.
They are. They give you much more of a restriction. They make you build your deck a lot differently, and I think they are really cool. So let's talk about E Honda's actual deck. Now, you get to play lots of silly cards because you get to play something like Giant Ox, which is a 2-mana 0/7, but because of E Honda, It is a 7/7 for 2 mana. Now that is actually a good vanilla rate.
That's like a Sarah Ascendant minus the fluff.
Yeah, minus all the fluff. You also get to play Nyx Fleece Ram, 2 mana. It's going to be an 0/5, and you'll gain 1 life on your upkeep. That card saw standard play, like anti-burn tech, because it could block anything Burn was playing and gain you a life.
Yeah, and Yoked Ox saw no play anywhere, but it is a 4/4 for 1 mana if you're feeling it.
Yoked Ox. Now, was the term yoked did not mean what it means now, right, back then?
No, it's similar, right? It's like muscular or something.
Yeah, but it's funny to me because it's like yoked has become kind of a Zoomer meme term at this point. But like back when they used it on this card, like almost 9 years ago now, like it's just kind of funny now that it's kind of just a meme, right? It's the yoked ox.
Yeah, and one thing Magic likes to do is give us double strike creatures and then cut their power in half and have their toughness be twice their power and just go like, hee 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 hee. It's like, why'd you even give a double strike? But we're going to take things like Oketra, Gotta Turn on Oketra, and Zatulpa Primal Dawn, and we're just going to flip it so that now they deal their toughness and double strike.
Yeah, so Zatulpa has 8 but. Okay.
That's 16 but.
That's 16 but. We're going to deal damage. But it's not 16 but.
It's whatever our hand size is, plus 16, plus whatever our hand size is.
Yeah, it's going. Honda's like gonna give at least +2 or +3. Like that's almost guaranteed. So get in. Oh, silly!
So much damage.
Silly card.
And it has trample.
And we're gonna make a ton of tokens with this deck because we want to go wide. Because ultimately, Honda's buff is basically an overrun effect when you really think about it.
Pretty huge.
Because you can go up to 100 creatures. You're never gonna have more than 100 creatures unless something really outlandish has happened. So when we go super wide and we're making tokens, we want Prava of the Seal Legion, who gives all of our tokens +1. Ew, boo. +4.
So +4, +4.
+4, +4. Now that is awesome. That's just another overrun effect. This can be, like, if you're going the tokens route, this can just, and E-Honda's died like 2 or 3 times. It gets expensive quick. That's 10 mana for E-Honda. You have a backup with something like Prava.
We have Oathsworn Giant, another commander staple, gives +0/+2 to your team, which is +2/+2. Basically Elishnorn.
Yeah, it's another backup. These are backup plans when we don't have Honda on the field. Very basic cards this deck does need. We need the ways to make all those tokens because that's the biggest payoffs we can do. Secure the Waste, super staple of your token type deck. And Grand Crescendo, just another. These are make X tokens, make X 1/1s. We're just going to put these both in our deck.
Yeah, we kind of need those. Stone Skin is +0/+10.
It's so awesome.
That's basically lethal.
It's lethal. E-Honda is lethal if you have 4 cards in your hand at that
right.
point.
And then like any of these double strike creatures, if you give +0/+10 to Zatulpa or Oketra, it's over.
Oh my god, +0/+10 to Zatulpa is 36 damage with nothing in hand.
Yeah. It's just ridiculous. And what is Eland Umbra?
Well, it's one of the Umbras, so it gives
Totem Armor.
Totem Armor, yes. It gives the Totem Armor ability, meaning if this creature would die, well, it has Totem Armor. Instead, you remove the Totem Armor and put it in the graveyard. But it gives +0/+4. It's just, we want to protect our commander. Our commander really needs protection. This is the way to give it a buff and protect it.
Yeah, and you remember the story when E-Honda was fighting against Sub-Zero and he recruited Elspeth Sun's champion because she just destroys everything. And E-Honda, all of his oxen and whatnot, they have 0 power.
Exactly. Your creatures, we're pumping butts. Our creatures have big butts, and they cannot lie. And so, because of that, Elspeth's destroying power. And she makes tokens, which is the other side of this deck. She's just kind of made for this deck. And then, hold on, her ultimate, if you can ever get there, which some small percentage of the time you will,
You win.
You pump all your creatures, all of your tokens that you're making. This card just is like made for, it's like
I think it was actually a plant for the upcoming E-Honda deck.
E-Honda and Elspeth, when these were, like, I know we've got like the Street Fighter characters in the Magic world, but once like the universes actually collide, they're going to be very good friends. Like, I don't know how they would. They're probably going to start dating, actually. I would be shocked. Like, that,
Move over, Daxos.
Move over, Daxos. Elspeth is now dating E-Honda, sumo champion. And now it's time for the most obscure commander, Maraschiello.com, which is actually a website where you can go to build your deck. And this isn't just any website. This is the best deck building website on the entire internet. You've been using Redacted site for years. Move to Maraschiello because you're going to learn very quickly that you were making a mistake using Redacted site.
You trust us with all the card ratings. You trust us with ranking every commander. You trust us with telling you some obscure commanders to go build. How do you not trust us with where to build them?
Yes, Maraschiello.com. Go follow us on Maraschiello.com. We're going to be the first account to 10K followers. Help us get there.
I just checked. We're at like 6,200-ish right now. We could do better. We're almost there.
Let's go.
And now this is the most obscure card. but you probably know it, but I guarantee you'll never guess it, so feel free to guess it in your head before I eventually say its name. Sir Eleanor the Discerning. There's 123 decks with her, and she's ranked 1538. Really can't get any lower than that.
Yeah, this card is way down there. This is not being played by a lot of people.
Oh, sorry. It's a star 4 for 5 that draws a card, and the star is your hand size.
Yeah, so this cares about hand size. This is a mono blue hand size matters deck. Now, these exist other places, but what I really like about this is that this is now lethal. If we get our hand big enough, our commander is lethal. So I just want to say, you're going to play anything that makes this unblockable are just cards you're going to play. You're going to play your Rogue's Passage in this deck. But that's not the cool stuff.
Yeah, come on.
There's a lot of actual, factual, really cool stuff. Like Body of Knowledge. A star equal to the number of cards in your hand. Okay. But when it's dealt damage, draw that many cards. And you have no maximum hand size. This card is just perfection for this deck.
Sturmgeist is that, but it has flying, and then when it hits somebody, you draw a card. And then Psychosis Crawler, you remember him.
Psychosis Crawler, yeah, he's
back.
He's back. It's also an alternate win count for this deck. This deck will draw its whole deck. Super important. This deck is we're going to be drawing an obscene amount of cards. Seriously, the most important cards in this deck might be Reliquary Cower, which gives us no maximum hand size on a land. The Cancer of Endless Water, 3-mana Mana Rock that makes any color and gives us no maximum hand size. And Thought Vessel, 2-mana Mana Rock that makes a colorless and gives us no maximum hand size.
I think you actually want Spellbook also, because when you draw a bunch of cards, it's 0 to just play.
I think you're 100% right. You just want all of this effect is so important in this deck. This deck is looking to play every absolutely silly, over-the-top draw amount.
Like we want 21 cards in our hand.
We want to draw 21 cards. We want to draw 15 cards and double it to 30. That's how this deck wants to behave.
Oh, you know what this deck wants? This deck wants Jingataxias, because then once we have 7 cards in our hand, he flips and we double the number of cards in our hand.
Oh, yeah, that's completely silly. And also, another way to have no maximum hand size is also an alternative win con if you can kind of get there. Triskaidekaphile. Okay, it's a creature, 4 mana, gives us no maximum hand size.
It draws cards.
It's a 1/3, but I'm dumb because it's a Triskaidekaphile.
Oh, I actually never got that.
And if you have 13 cards in your upkeep, exactly, sometimes you will. You'll just win the game. This card is just no maximum hand size is one of the key parts of this card, but also it's just a little bit of card draw and an alternate win condition.
If you talk about mono blue card draw, we have to talk about probably my 2 favorite cards in that category: Flow of Ideas, 6 mana sorcery, draw a card for each island you control, and Flow of Knowledge, 5 mana instant, draw a card for each island you control, then discard 2 cards. I absolutely love these, and honestly, if you draw them in the late game, you just can't lose.
And like you said, this is why you want Spellbook, right? Like, it makes perfect sense. Flow of Knowledge can be used in instant speed, but Flow of Ideas cannot. So we're going to be perhaps tapping out at some points for almost everything. And even if we draw, like, let's say, eight cards, even if we get, let's just say, our Mana Rock, like one of our mana, we might not be able to cast it. Spellbook, perfect for that situation.
I love these cards so much. They're so much fun.
I absolutely love this next card because it's an MDFC, which we hype up all the time on this channel, and it's just got synergy with this deck. Seagate Restoration. Okay, we draw equal to our hand size.
That's dangerous.
Like, it can be dangerous. We want to make our hand size absolutely huge, so we draw equal to our hand size. Perfect. And then we have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Perfect. We absolutely want that. Another card that gives us no maximum hand size for the rest of the game is when we connect with Ancient Silver Dragon.
Draw 20.
All right, let's roll a d20, draw equal to the results. Hopefully it's 20, and then no maximum hand size for the remainder of the game.
Yeah, find a playable blue card that gives us first strike, so then we can kill somebody with Eleanor right after that.
Oh, it's so awesome. I mean, we're drawing this deck. The whole point is get your hand ridiculously big so that your commander is a one-shot kill, and even like things like Body of Knowledge, Sturmgeist, and Psychosis Crawler will all just be lethal threats by themselves as well.
Yeah, Teferi's Ageless Insight and Elhammert's Archive are just going to crank it to the extreme. They both double our card draw.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to go over the top, ridiculous amounts. You also want to have I think this is one of the more boring cards in this deck, but it's obviously very good. This deck will draw out. So what we can add to it is Jace Wheeler Mystery, which says when you draw from an empty library, you win the game. Obviously very, very good. And it's important to play this over Thoracle in this deck because this deck will go from 20 cards in deck to drawing the whole deck up. That is what this deck will do. So I actually think Jace Wheeler Mystery and Laboratory Maniac are better in this deck than Thoracle, which is a rare thing to say.
And then let's just throw in Ormos Archive Keeper and just make it a 100-100.
This thing is so cool. I like this. If I was going to do a deck that drew out my whole deck, to make it a little more interesting and make it a little more risky, I would put Ormos as the end thing instead of Jace, because instead of just winning the game, all right, we don't draw, we put counters on this. So it's like, hey, remove this, night lose. And it makes more of I feel like it makes more of a fun mini game rather than what Jace does, which is like just win.
I don't know, this is like a refreshing take on draw a million cards. Like, let's just actually end the game. Let's beat people up with Sir Eleonora, and you could probably even do like a really cool budget deck with this, because it's like what, 2 cents?
I mean, just the front cards, Body of Knowledge, Psychosis Crawler, and Sturmgeist.
They're probably 5 cents.
Those are worth nothing. A lot of these are worth nothing. There's like
Triskaidekaphile, Decanter of Endless Water, Flow of Ideas, and Flow of Knowledge. You can get them all for real cheap.
Yeah, exactly. The Thought Festival has gotten pretty cheap now recently too because it's just memory prints a lot. Yeah, this could be an awesome budget deck. Now, we talked about 7 most fun commanders in one of our other videos, which is right over there. So make sure you go click it right now and check out that video.
Do it.
Peace out, Tribe Scouts.